When it comes to European club football, we all know there are five nations that tend to dominate the coefficient charts. You've got England, Spain, Germany, France, and Italy. And if you were to take those five nations away, you would probably find that the Netherlands and Portugal would end up taking over their mantle. So to me, it's an unofficial Big Seven, shall we say. I'm interested to know, what would happen if you took all seven of them out of Europe, out of the coefficient ranks, and left it to everybody else? Which nations would dominate? Which clubs would dominate? Ultimately, what kind of chaos can we cause? Let's find out, shall we? So here we are in game, and I've been playing around with the pre-game editor again, and as you can see in here, there are no big nations to be seen. None of those big seven are in there. Austria currently top the coefficient chart with Scotland second and Serbia third. And if you take away the 17-18 season and sort of preliminary get it to next season, Scotland actually get their chance to be number one. But obviously that depends on this season's Champions League, which of course is going to be contested by teams not from the top seven leagues. So you're going to get a very different winner to previous years, as it's been a while since there's been a winner from a non-top seven nation. In fact, it's Red Star Belgrade in 1991, Crvena Zvezda. Good luck to me on that one in the comment section. But yes, essentially, we're probably looking at new winners in all the competitions for certainly compared to the usual winners, let's put it that way. The last time the Europa League had a winner outside of the top seven was 2009 with Shakhtar Donetsk. And the Conference League, being a new competition, has only ever been won by Roma. So, anything could happen here. I think we're going to find a few new teams to dominate. Well, we're going to have to, really, if it's been so long. And we're going to find out which nation ends up ruling the roost. Now, you may be wondering, what on earth did I do with the existing nations? Well, the jiggery pokery I've done here is I've turned Oceania into Europe Elite and added the top seven teams and Belarus, and if Russia ever came back, they'd go in here. Just because of all the political stuff, it's actually easier to just remove them from the situation. If you wonder where the Oceania teams went, they got absorbed into Asia. A bit like Australia did when it comes to qualifying. So it doesn't feel horrendously unrealistic, but really, we're only bothered about the European coefficients and what's going to happen. So, time for the usual, let's sim forward a few years and see what happens. So here we are, I'm back, and we're back in the year 2054. So I've left this going simming for a while, and I intend to let it sim one more very long time before going forward. But essentially, yeah, a lot has happened. You'll find major clubs listed here are Celtic, Copenhagen, Bruges, Salzburg, Galatasaray, Rangers. So clearly Scotland have had a decent run of things, shall we say, and Denmark have a super team. But I suppose what we're all wondering, and we'll go there first, who has topped the coefficient charts? And it's Belgium. And in fact, quite comfortably Belgium as well. 91.73 points currently scheduled for the next season. Austria are there in second place with Greece third. Scotland only sixth, despite the fact Celtic and Rangers are both quite dominant in the stats. That's quite interesting. And Denmark only in fourth. So I'm very intrigued to see who's been winning the Champions League. Let's go find out then. Oh. Okay. So Celtic and Copenhagen have basically become the big two clubs in the world, or at least in Europe, shall we say. That's some unprecedented dominance. And Celtic have won how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18, 19. 21 Champions League titles since 2022. And Copenhagen have nipped in with about 7 of their own. Club Bruges have clicked in with a few as well. Red Bull Salzburg have got one. I thought Salzburg might be one of the teams that would dominate this, but no, apparently not. Galatasaray nipped in the final, Segala nipping in the final, Anderlecht. So clearly Belgium just have had the most number of good teams. And teams like in places like Scotland, they've had 2 fantastic teams, but just not enough depth behind them. Meanwhile, in the Europa League, it looks like Austria have been having a bit of a good time with things, with the Vienna team seemingly having a few wins. Crvena Zvezda managed to get a few wins in there as well. Mechelen doing the job, along with Ghent for Belgium and Standard Liège as well. St. Gallen had a little bit of an early spell, but it's been a lot more mixed in this competition, which I have to admit I'm quite a fan of. Bodø/Glimt getting to the final twice, in fact. Basel, I've got a soft spot for Switzerland, so I will keep an eye on that. Rheindorf-Haltasch winning for Austria as well. So you're getting a variety of winners in very different places, which is quite good to see. Conference League, oh, that's a big variety. I mean, I'm a big fan of this. Yeah, this is what I would love the Europa League, Conference League, Champions League all to be. Just a bit more spread out, I suppose. You know, let's let them actually have their own tournament. I think that's what the Conference League was there for, rather than it just being the third best English team or the fourth best French team winning it all the time. So, yeah, this is quite a nice little combination of teams, isn't it? And Shakhtar coming in there, Spartak Varna, Apollon Limassol. So even Cyprus have had a major competition win, and Larnaca, so they've had two. Wow, I wonder where Cyprus are in the coefficients. Got to have a look now. Cyprus, 21st in coefficients, have had two Conference League winners. This I love. But yeah, I mean, let's have a look at the club coefficients then, shall we? So Celtic, Copenhagen and Bruges are miles away from anyone else. You've then got Panathinaikos, and then another big gap to St. Gallen, then Rangers. Now, Rangers, I have to admit, I've not actually seen them. So they've come third in the Club World Cup, but they've only ever really been runners-up in the Champions League. And they've only had one Scottish Premier League title. And yet they are the, sixth best club in Europe and arguably the world. Oh, Celtic muddied them properly there, didn't they? But yet they are still probably one of the best teams. That is just wild. Just looking quickly at World Rep, and Red Bull Salzburg have found themselves up in that list as well, up in 4th. So they probably should be doing a little bit better than they are. But ultimately, yeah, it's an incredible list when you think about it overall. It's nice to see Crvena Zvezda there for Serbia as a different nation. Sparta Prague for Czechia. You've got Spartak Varna for Slovakia as well. It would certainly be a lot harder job to pronounce names for winners, wouldn't it? So one thing I did think to look at was the Club World Cup, purely on the basis that with the number of European teams now being, not the big 7 nations, would one of them win it? Or would the ability of, said big nations coming in through Oceania, meaning that 1 or 2 of them would get in, would they still dominate the competition? And in the early stages, Manchester City for the active year, which was already qualified, then Real Madrid, who I think would have already qualified through the history before, qualifying and winning 2025. 2029, though, Real Madrid did qualify, and I'm assuming this was part of Oceania qualifying. Or Europe Elite, I should say. I should stop calling it Oceania. We haven't physically moved them. We've just given them their own continent. But Flamengo won the whole tournament. Then Real Madrid, but Celtic caught them up properly. Celtic then lost to River Plate in the final. Flamengo then beat Rangers. And then Copenhagen Club Bruges in the final. And then Celtic beating Manchester City. So clearly, by having the European elite nations taken to one side, their quality and ability has just been decimated. And now the big European teams, your Celtics and your Copenhagens, really are the bee's knees, so to speak. One other thing I was going to look at was European Championships and World Cups. So let's have a look at the Euros that have won in the time of the save. So Wales won it in 2024. Oh, that's not bad. Belgium, Denmark, Croatia, Ukraine, Scotland, Norway, Austria. So no nation has won it twice since we started this save. I am a fan of this. Turkey, Norway and Austria. Austria have been in the final a few times. Ireland, Scotland final in 2044 in Switzerland, Austria. Oh, brilliant. Oh, this just gets so much better. We've got to look at the World Cup now, because this is where the European elites would be allowed back in. So it would be interesting to see, do they end up winning? Oh, there's obviously one about to kick off now. So England win in 2022. Well, we obviously know that didn't happen. Italy then win in 2026. Fair. Portugal, Germany. So, you know, the European elite teams are still there winning the national titles because at the end of the day, we moved the clubs from the nations, but we didn't move the players. So those players might well have ended up moving over to our European teams anyway. Brazil, England, Brazil. But then Turkey in 2050, finally holding the flag for the remaining European teams, taking tournament with Japan in the final. You love to see this. You love to see things like that. So I think what we need is a bit more chaos. So I'm going to let this sim run a little bit longer and see what chaos we can cause. The year is 2112 and Celtic are still good. 2112, Celtic Champions League winners, and not for the first time in recent times. What you will notice though is that Rangers are suddenly closing in and winning an awful lot of Champions Leagues. Scotland have got two of the most dominant teams in world football. Galatasaray have come from, I'm not going to say from nowhere, but they've come up to become another dominating team. Copenhagen are still there, Salzburg is still there, but not quite to the level they were early on in this save. Rheindorf Altac is still going strong, which is, you know, lovely for Austria. But yeah, there's not suddenly a lot of variety going on. Club Bruges again, but yeah, your odd winners are not there anymore. The Europa League, and the Europa League is an awful lot more spread out. Puskás Academy, that's good to see. 21-10 Puskás winning the tournament. It's nice that my save offline, so to speak, has been building a nation in Hungary, the same as second yellow card. So it's nice seeing Hungarian teams. I'm intrigued to see what they are, because I noticed Molfehovar as well. Sadly, no MTK Budapest, which, yeah, that's a shame. French Faust as well. I wonder if Hungary have done sneaky well here, you know. I wonder if they didn't need me or second yellow card to build a nation. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute, but just scrolling through the list of teams here, and there's some interesting ones. It's nice to see Cluj up there as well. Trevana had a little bit of time. Donetsk Strada. Charleroi. Oh, Molfehovar. There's actually quite a lot of Hungarian teams here. This is promising. Let's have a look at the Conference League, shall we? So, let's go back up to the top. Puskás Academy. Okay, this is looking promising. Copper from Slovenia. Volkslava Poltava from Ukraine. So not even top Ukrainian teams now. Oh, wish me luck here, Slovakian. Rizhombarok. Okay. So that's one of those. I didn't expect a team that I'd never actually heard of to win it. Livingston winning it in 2098. Here we go. Scotland on the resurgence. You've got Brann, AEK. Oh, what's the odds on that? I'm terrible, aren't I? Bohemians Praha. I was for a moment then I thought an Irish team had won something, but sadly not. In fact, yeah, I was just thinking have an Irish team won anything, and it turns out the answer looks very much like no. That's a pity. But as you can see, there's been an absolutely lovely variety of winners in the European competitions. So what's that done to the coefficient charts? So Belgium are still top, but the gap has shrunk. And in fact, the number of points, I think, has shrunk a bit as well. It's actually quite nicely evenly spread. I mean, if we sort it by... We'll keep it as the current standings for now. But Belgium, Hungary in second. Oh, Matt would be so jealous of this. Scotland did climb up to third with Turkey 4, Switzerland 5. Austria down to 7th now. Ukraine in 14th, and they'd had a few winners as well. Republic of Ireland in 26th. Who's down the bottom? Your usual suspects, I suppose. Your Samarias and your Andorras, but still, that's a pretty solid little bit of a list. But it's nice to see if we then sort it here by what it was going to be going into this season. Belgium, Hungary, Turkey, Romania jumped from 8th to 4th, and Sweden from 10th to 7th. So there's big jumps available because they're so closely matched together. Let's have a look at the club coefficients then. And Galatasaray have toppled Celtic to be the top-ranked team in Europe. Rheindorf Altac 3rd, Rangers up to 4th, Copenhagen 5th, Basel now 6th. I was wondering if Basel might find their way up there. But Puskás Academy in 10th, Spartak Tivana having a good time of it. Bodø in 11th. There's all sorts of madness going on here, and I am absolutely here for it. Speaking of absolute madness... World Cup, after what happened last time, Where are we? So when we left, Turkey won. Spain, that's a shame. Ivory Coast, we got an African winner. That's interesting. I wonder if it's just the dampening of the European sides. I mean, they kept all their youth ratings and everything else. I didn't really muck about with the nations, just where they were based. So that's almost an on-merit Ivory Coast victory. Brazil, Ukraine, you love to see it. Portugal, Brazil again. Mexico, England, Chile. But Ireland had no good team. I don't even think that the best team in Ireland, being Shamrock, if you look at their landmarks, I don't imagine that they've particularly won anything in Europe. They all look domestic to me. Yeah, their national team won a World Cup in 2019, followed by Wales. So Ireland, Wales, Italy, and then Spain have decided to start dominating again, as suddenly they seem to have got used to their new surroundings. What's happened in the Euros then? So in the Euros, we got to Norway winning in 2048 and Austria in 2052. Norway then decided they were going to go and immediately ruin my, it's a different nation each time, by winning a second one. But who else have we got? Belgium, Serbia, Sweden, Romania, Denmark, Czech Republic, Ukraine again. So I suppose there is starting to become a little bit of a belt of nations who are particularly good, Norway especially, but there is still quite a decent amount of variety. I like this. And I suppose the last thing to think about would be the Club World Cup. And okay, so we left it with Celtic in 2049 and 2053 going the back-to-back, beating Man City and Copenhagen. Corinthians then went on a bit of a run with Boca Juniors. And then Man City decided they were going to have a run, and Rangers decided they were going to have a run. So, and Galatasaray and Celtic have dominated in recent years, but essentially the team that qualifies through Oceania always has a pretty reasonable chance of succeeding, but the European sides seem to be getting the better of them. Very interesting. As a slight aside, I looked at the international rankings, and out of all the nations that we've got in the European stages left, Croatia in 12th are still the highest. So the Big Seven are still the Big Seven in international football, which, as I said, we've kept the youth ratings. So as regions have come through, they probably still are better in all of the above nations. If anything, it's allowed the South American teams to catch up and overtake, like Uruguay and Chile. It's almost diluted the European teams a little bit, which is a slight surprise. But Wales 16, Norway 15. I suppose it's something. The United States in 19th is interesting as well. China up to 22nd. So the Chinese resurgence did happen, but what we had to do was completely alter Europe to do it. Okay, but I think that's it for this experiment as far as I'm concerned. We've managed to go nearly 100 years into the future. We've managed to change the complete order of world football. We've almost done building a nation Hungary without actually having to do anything. We've managed to get Belgium to be the top nation in Europe purely because they have the biggest strength in depth, because I've seen all 6 of those major clubs winning major tournaments. But that's all I've got for today. But thanks everybody for watching once again. Please hit like and subscribe if you've enjoyed it. There's hopefully a few more videos on the way at some point. But ultimately, this has been a blast. I've enjoyed the chaos. I've enjoyed just seeing something a little bit different. And I suppose the answer to the question, who would become the unofficial 8th team if you lost the Big Seven? The answer is Belgium. And with that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.